It always works. Me too.
So now it takes a few seconds until we're there. So let me go back to Zoom. 24 people watching here.
You're live.
I'm live. I'm alive.
You're live. Gotcha.
Hey, Sharon. Oh, Sharon Gallagher says, hi, repeat for me. Good to hear more than once. Oh, good. It's nice that you were in the first challenge or run through the challenge and you're in the second one too. Oops. Oh, Francis Sizemel, hello, glad to be here. Made it finally. Very good. Glad to have you. And Katie McGatch said, hello from Canada. Excited to do it again. Oh, good. Lots of repeaters. Very good. Let me check on YouTube. Artistic Dressage says hi. Must be Shanna.
Hmm?
Artistic Dressage says hi.
Yeah, that's me.
That's you. That's what I figured.
Yeah.
4 people watching. Wow. 4 entire people. So yeah, anyway, did you see the, hey, Karen Jones says brand new to challenge. Hi from Karen in Georgia. Oh, very good. And Galina from New Jersey and Eugenia Smirnova. Hello from Northern California. Hey, I hope your air is better now. Hope the fires are dying down. So and Beth Brown says hi from Nevada. Glad for the rerun. Missed a few sessions. Oh, good. So you can take time and watch it all again. Hey, Nessa, glad to be here. The smoke has cleared in Eugene.
Yay.
Yeah, I saw that you had rain in Oregon, that the air quality improved right away. So thank God. Eugene, yeah, Smirnova says, darn, too early for wine over here. Never too early for wine, especially Northern California. Wine country. Yeah, hello from Ottawa. It just says it gives me a bunch of numbers. I don't know. Sorry, it doesn't give me a name. Second time through. Allison from Southern California. Happy to be here. Hey. Again, she says. And who did I miss? Kirsty Jensen. Hello from Norway. Signed up for the first round, but never got the time to catch up with all the Q&As. I know. Time flies. I hardly have time to catch up with the Q&As, and I have to teach them. Francis says, couldn't live without wine. Oh, that's not the truth. Sarah Barlow, hello from California. Lots of Californians. Hey, awesome.
Nice.
And Petra Roden, very excited to learn more about my favorite topic. Petra Roden from Alabama. Oh my God, wow. We don't have a lot of people from Alabama usually. And Pixie says, hi, Jackie Rose from Southern Spain. Happy to be here again after managing to see and hear most of it last week. And Christina back again. Wow, Christina just did it all in German from the Czech Republic, right? And Karen Jones from Georgia. Hey, very good. That's awesome. Let me check on YouTube. Yeah, nothing new happening. Let me turn on the recording. So did everybody get a chance to see the video? And do you have any questions? Hey, Christina, exactly, check. Oh, Slovak Republic, okay. Sorry. I thought you were from Czech Republic. But hey, and Barbara from Poland. Catherine Islay from Scotland. Hey, very good. Yeah, with the Czechs and the Slovaks, I don't know. It's probably similar to the, people from Australia, New Zealand. If you call the New Zealand or Australian, they're not happy. It's probably the same with Czechs and Slovaks. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Me too.
I know. And Christina Bola says, good evening from Germany. Hey, and Terry from Ocala, Florida. Very good, very good. Well, does anybody have any questions? Oh, Chris Danko, hey, from Colorado. Missed that earlier. So Christina says, that's okay. We used to be one republic some years ago. I know, I remember that. Czechoslovakia, I know. Yeah. Hey, Svetlana Belova from Estonia. Very good. So nice. And Shelley says, from Cape Town, South Africa, watched the videos last week, but wasn't able to join the Q&As, hoping to be able to this week.
First time you get to.
Good, yeah. That's nice. People from all over the world.
I love that.
Yeah, I know. I like that a lot. That's cool. And Nessa says, been enjoying the Facebook post. It's so interesting reading everyone's observations and experiences. Yeah, absolutely. It's always interesting to see this large variety of horses. It's a good way to educate your eye, looking at all the different horses. Svetlana, so what's your favorite wine? Oh, I like the powerful red ones. And right now, of course, we live in Portugal, so we drink Portuguese wine. There are lots of great Portuguese wines to discover. The Alentejo region is really good, and the Douro region is very good. Yeah, they have good specials often, good wines for discounted price here. But otherwise we switch around. Like the Austrian red wines, the Blaue Zweigel, I like the California wines a lot, and Oregon wines.
Cabernet,
Merlot, Shiraz. Yeah, the wines from southern France are really good. The Languedoc area is really good.
We should have a whole other thing where we just talk about wine.
I know. The Riojas from Spain are really good. Yeah, I kind of wander around, try different things for a while. We like really Italian wines a lot.
Yeah, we were drinking Italian for a while.
Yeah. Depends a little bit on what's in store at the grocery stores. So what they stock. So yeah, well. Any other
more people showing up in just a minute.
The
announcements are all going.
Okay, yeah, it's 39 on Zoom at the moment and 6 on YouTube, it says.
Yay, YouTubers!
Yeah.
YouTube. I guess they're not YouTubers.
We are the YouTubers, and
technically, yeah. I guess. Don't tell the kids.
I know.
We're totally too uncool to be YouTubers.
Yeah, they watch these Minecraft YouTubers that have like 9 million subscribers or more.
How is that even possible?
I know. I don't get that. I don't know. Watching somebody else play a video game is like, why? But that's what they do. So I don't think we'll get there. I don't think we'll get 9 million horse people watching a YouTube video.
Not this week.
Yeah, maybe next week. Goals.
Life goals. Hashtag life goals.
Hey, but we're up to 41 on Zoom. Hey.
Yeah, the announcements are going out. I sent out.
Yeah.
So yeah, people start joining you.
Good. Very good.
Start taking questions. You guys ask questions. If they have pictures they want you to analyze, you can do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so Terry says, please refresh my recollection from the first challenge. What usually causes bumps on the haunches, either closer to the tail or at the top near lumbosacral joint? That's the hunter's bump. I think that's sort of a subluxation. That's an injury that the jumpers get. You don't see it in dressage horses usually.
Unless they have some sort of
race horses and jumpers get that. Yeah. Then Jean White says, hello from Wisconsin, USA. Happy to be doing this again, even though I'm signed up for the full course already. How good for you. Seem to be a slow learner, lots of baggage to unlearn. And the more times I hear the great information you offer, the better chance it will sink in. Yeah, a lot of us had to unlearn a lot of stuff over the years. Me too, and it always takes a long time to unlearn and then relearn.
Yeah. I'll come over for a second. Fortunately, a lot of the things that we're all taught in the beginning of our dressage educations are blatantly wrong for the horse. Yeah. They're quick fix sort of things that instructors teach to kind of get you further ahead, but it actually limits you, unfortunately. And so that's not what we're about. We're about creating success from the ground up. So it can be hard to unlearn things. I know. I had to do it too. But it's worth it. It's really worth it. Yeah.
So Frances Seisemal has an interesting question. She said, what part of the muscle on the neck shows correct suppleness? Sometime my trainer has mentioned that the bulge can indicate not enough forward and you can lean and duck behind the vertical.
Which bulge?
I know.
There are multiple bulges.
So a well-muscled neck, has a sort of a soft, lean under neck, but a more developed top line. And the muscles in front of the withers, they should be building up over the years. It takes a while to build up. But if that's the bulge your trainer is referring to, then I don't think they're right.
But it depends on the bulge.
Yeah,
Because there's like a bulge that can happen in the middle of the neck, up high in the middle, and when they can happen up high by the pole, and
in the middle of the neck is not so great. That could if it's really in the middle, then it could be that they're not forward enough. It could be that they curl up. Not
it
necessarily
they're holding themselves
so,
kind of like
exactly.
a fake posture, and they're making a headset essentially.
Yeah. But the muscles in front of the withers, they only happen really when the horse is going forward and when they're lifting the withers and they're carrying themselves
directly
correctly.
In front of the withers, this triangle space.
Yeah.
We go over that in video too, though. I know you've already been through the challenge, but for those that have not already seen video 2 that comes out tomorrow, we go over all of that.
Yeah.
So if you feel like a little lost, don't worry. Tomorrow you get the info.
And Sarah Barlow says, I think my mare's top line is coming along, but want to learn more about groundwork.
Yes.
In the actual course, we do a lot of that.
Yes. Yeah. For those that didn't already know that, and I know most of it you do, this is all as a prelude to a course that we are rolling out, brand new course, and it's all groundwork to support the horse's musculature.
And, Sharon Gallagher says, when a horse is born with a lordosis type back conformation, can that be changed from correct top line work? If a horse has sort of a sway back, that is tricky depending on how the hind legs are built. Are they out behind naturally when the horse is standing there? Are they vertical? Are they in front? Is the neck set on very high? Is it set on low? Is it long? Is it short? It all depends. So if the neck is set on really high, the hind legs are out behind, then that's tricky because the hind legs are what protects the back and supports the back, but that means they need to be under the body. If the neck is long and set on high, that creates a pressure behind the withers, which can drop the back, right? So if you have a high sit neck, you have hind legs that are well under the body to protect it. Otherwise, if the hind legs are AWOL and then the neck is up and puts pressure on the back, then the horse's back turns into a hammock, right? Then that would be a problem, especially if it's a long back and a narrow back, then it's really difficult.
I want to say something.
You may.
So you're not going to be able to change the horse's inherent basic conformation, the conformation that the horse was born with. But with a horse like that, that's all the more reason to do the kind of work that will support the horse. You can't afford to make any mistakes with a horse with unfortunate conformation. You really need to do everything you can to support that horse, to help the horse learn how to engage the hind legs, bring the hind legs under so that the horse can lift the back and use him or herself properly. Yeah, it
depends very much on the details of the conformation. Like I said, the shape of the neck, the length of the neck, how high it's set on, the hind legs, angles of the hind legs, are they out behind, are they under, and length of the back, width of the back. And sometimes you have one negative element and then other positive elements that compensate, that help you, protect the back anyway. And then other horses have like 2 or 3 problems, problem areas that sort of multiply each other, and then it can become very difficult. And, in bad cases, the horse may not be suitable as a riding horse, but may be better used as a driving horse or, whatever. So it depends on what the conformation looks like in detail. So Karen Jones says, is there a special thread in the Facebook group for posting our horse's top lines, or do we just start our own post? Oh, in the Facebook group, you can just post pictures of your horse, and a lot of people then write little bios or little descriptions. This is the breed, this is the age, and I've had the horse that long, and these are the issues, maybe, I don't know, injury, whatever, lay up and stuff, so that you get a little bit of a background information and can just post the pictures there in the group. And then everybody can, look at them. It should be interesting.
If they want to post some pictures, they can go ahead and you can go ahead and
exactly.
them.
Yeah. Beth Brown says, I recently went back to lunging for a few minutes before riding because she was getting very lazy and lacking impulsion, especially at the trot. The lunge session seemed to wake her up, and I can ask for more forward. Question is, how do I make sure I'm not throwing her into the forehand and creating a rushy trot? Look at the trot and see, is there suspension or no suspension? Is it just a very quick, many beats per minute kind of trot, or is it slow enough that there is suspension? That should help. And then, of course, you can always counteract, potential negative side effects from lunging by doing a little work in hand, rebalancing the horse, putting, the horse more on the hind legs, or, do that under saddle. Yeah, it shouldn't look rushed, shouldn't feel rushed, right? Yeah, look at how, does the trot, for example, at the lunge line look natural? Does it look rushy? Does it look nervous? Does it look tense? It's hard to give you really objective criteria. I mean, that's something I decide by feel, by intuition. Maybe take the horse's normal trot in the pasture as your reference point. And so when you lunge the horse, does the trot look sort of like like a slightly better version of the trot in the pasture, depending on whether the trot in the pasture is nice or not so nice, or does it look much faster? Does it look much slower? So the trot that the horse shows in the pasture is sort of the natural baseline. This is what the horse normally moves like. And if it's a good quality horse, it's a nice trot in the pasture, right? And then you just try to approximate that when you're working the horse, try to get close to that. If the horse doesn't have such a great natural gait, doesn't have a great natural trot, then you can see if you can make it a little better with the training, which means, I don't know, depending on what the horse does. If it's a phlegmatic horse, then activate, make it a little quicker. If it's a hot horse that's rushy, then make it a little slower, and then so try to find the tempo and stride length in which the horse can balance herself the best. And then when the horse is balanced, they can relax more, right? If the tempo is too fast or too slow, the horse gets tense and it can't find a balance, can't relax. So these are the things you can, questions you could ask yourself, basically. Does that look relaxed? Does that look balanced? Does that, look as nice as the horse, in the pasture, or does it look worse? Or, can the horse, find a better balance and move more efficiently, move with more, brilliance if I slow it down a little bit, or if I speed it up a little bit, so you can even experiment with that a little bit and see what works better. Okay, and Francis says it's in the middle of the neck, and he does hold himself sometimes, not always though. Yeah, if it's in the middle, trainer might be right. That could be, and it's often like a frame. The horse holds a frame maybe where the withers are dropped, but the neck is round. If it's that bulge in the middle, what I call or describe it as looking like a snake that swallowed a rabbit, right? Where it's narrow in the front, narrow at the rear end of the snake, and then in the middle there is this big bulge. If you have a neck like that, it's narrow at the withers and wide in the middle, and then narrow towards the top. That's usually not a good sign, right? Then the horse is not really lifting the withers and not going forward enough. Potentially, could be. Interesting. So Svetlana says, I remember one horse who literally had permanent marks from the saddle on its back. He was 18 years I think dressage horse had a lot of prizes, but it's clearly was not working with his spine, with his back. Is it able to collect work from behind, but not working spine? No. What usually happens, I mean, it's a competition horse, right? So the riders were probably sitting pretty heavily on the seat, on their seat bones, which leaves these dents in the horse's spine if the horse, can't lift the back. They were probably holding it in front, probably upper level horse ridden with a double bridle a lot, I would think, and then heavy, seat, lots of weight on the seat bones, drops the back, keeps the hind legs out behind. The horse can't really engage and step under if you bear down or press down on your seat bones all the time. And then holding the head and neck in a frame, then everything, it goes front to back, right? And then the back atrophies, the back muscles atrophy. That's unfortunately, not uncommon in competition horses. We used to see a lot of those too when we were still competing. And I see the horses without their saddle in the stalls and stuff. It sometimes makes you wonder how they can do all these fancy movements with that muscling. So yeah.
That's why they don't stay sound.
Yeah, they don't stay sound, exactly. If you have these dents in the back, then it's a sign that the energy of the hind legs doesn't really flow through the spine to the bit and back. It doesn't get recycled. It gets cut off somewhere, and then it's a leg mover, not a back mover. So Sharon Gallagher says, excellent. I was just curious. And Rebecca Stewart says, how do you work a horse that has a higher headset, naturally longer back? What can you do to help her support the horse to engage? Yeah, a longer back and higher headset, that usually makes the horse drop the back. The high headset, creates a certain leverage effect of the head and neck on the back, and that creates a downward pressure behind the spine. And if the back is long and not so well connected to the hind legs, then the back tends to drop instead of that pressure or the weight flowing along the spine to the hind legs and then flexing the hind legs. So the rider may have to sit lightly, in the sense that they spread their weight out over a large area instead of having all their weight on their seat bones. They will have to engage the hind legs well with all kinds of little lateral movements, and then initially, it asks the hind leg to come under the body, and then maybe turn the shoulder or stretch laterally with a little bit of an opening rein, and then see if you can get a forward downward stretch from the horse. So you feel like hind leg coming under, flexing a little, then you should feel the back lifting, and you should feel the paw releasing, stretching a little bit. And then gradually, the back and the hind legs get stronger, and then you can eventually develop higher elevation. But the higher elevation really has to be the result of the hind legs engaging and flexing and carrying the weight, and that the back has to stay up and swinging. If you elevate the head too much, or if the horse does it himself, the back will get tight and drop, and then the hind legs will be disconnected. So you always have to feel for the energy flow from the hind legs through the spine to the bit and back, and you have to look for the connection between hind legs, back, neck, paw, reins, and so on. So as soon as you feel like the back is dropping out from underneath you, then it's too much elevation and the hind legs are no longer coming under the body. And so you may have to play with these things quite a bit, so that the hind legs stay underneath you, back stays lifted, and so on. So lots of sidestepping and turning will help, enlarging the circle, a couple of strides, ride a volte, or ask the croup to yield a little to the outside and ride a volte, and things like that. That helps to bring the hind legs under and sit on them, so they flex, and then they will lift the back. The hind legs will lift the back when they flex under the body. yeah, when the hind legs are flexed, back is lifted, the horse will tend to lower the neck again because it feels good to them, and then that also takes a little bit of the weight and the pressure off of the hind legs, you know, if the horse can stretch a little forward downward. Jen is saying, if the horse naturally stands with its hind legs back, should we try to shift the weight when just standing to bring them under more, like when standing tied for grooming? Yeah, when I'm grooming, I usually leave them alone. I mean, you could ask the horse to step a little under and bring the hind legs a little bit more forward. Probably won't hurt. I personally usually leave them alone when I'm grooming them, but then in the arena, I would work on getting the hind legs to step under, and then you could take a couple of steps forward, maybe take a step back, take a step forward, take a step back, and then also do these sidestepping a few strides, turn on the haunches, or volte, or combinations of sidestepping and turning, so that the hind legs come under the body. They have to flex to support the weight, and so on. And yeah, just as long as you're in the arena, they have to really keep the hind legs under themselves. They're not allowed to let the hind legs go out too far behind, which means you probably have to ask the horse to pick up the hind legs sooner than they would on their own, right? These horses, if they're out behind naturally, they would probably, put the hind leg down and forget about it. And then the front legs just keep marching, and the front end of the horse moves away from the hind leg, and then the hind leg is farther out behind, the horse gets longer and longer. So with these horses, you often have to drive the hind legs when they're still on the ground, and so the horse picks the hind legs up sooner and doesn't forget that he has them, right? Some horses seem to forget that they have hind legs, so and then you can teach the horse the habit of having the hind legs more under the body. So they get into the habit of moving a certain way, right, with the hind legs under and flexed. And Kjersti Jensen says, do you see different top-line challenges or problems in different breeds, i.e. are some problems more common in certain breeds and other breeds will usually have other sorts of problems? Yeah, definitely. Definitely, because of the conformation, right? Conformation is different, right, from one breed to another. Like the Arabs often have a pelvis that's rotated a little bit out back the wrong way, so they tend to drop the back, and then of course they have this high set neck, so that can lead to the back dropping, and it can be difficult to get those horses to lift the back and go through the back and on the bit. Then some of the quarter horses are very croup high, and have a neck that's set on low, like these Western pleasure horses, that can make it very difficult to get the horse into a good uphill balance, right? So then those hind legs only push if they even push. A lot of the Western pleasure horses don't push, they don't carry, because they want the slowest possible gait. And then the top line doesn't develop because of that, right? Frisian saddlebreds often have, very high set necks, often big long necks that have a lot of leverage when they're high, on the back, and then hind legs are often a little out behind, so the back kind of drops down and hangs, like a hammock. That's a very common Frisian problem. Also saddlebred problem. Saddlebreds often are very narrow in the rib cage and the back too, which doesn't make them especially suitable for carrying the rider, unless the rider is really lightweight.
They were bred to go a certain way. So
yeah, exactly.
In dressage, we want them to go very differently. So they find it difficult. Doesn't mean it's not good for them, but they find it difficult.
And then there are breeds that have short, thick necks. And with those, you always have the issue that, for more collected work, the horse would have to elevate the head and neck more. But in order to be able to elevate the head and neck, the horse also has to be able to flex the neck more, so he's still on the bit with more elevation. And if the neck is not long enough for that, then you either elevate, then the horse is above the bit, and tight in the pole, throat latch, or you have the horse on the bit, the head is vertical, but maybe the neck is practically horizontal, so there's no elevation anymore. In the extreme cases, then it's very hard to get that horse to the upper levels. Basically, it's hard to get that horse to collect, so that's a big issue, right? And then of course, then it's hard to develop the top line well if the neck is just short and stubby and set on very low. Then it's very difficult, right? And then you have to always make compromises in the posture of the horse. What else? Yeah, some of the old Baroque horses, some of the old PREs and the Pizans would have almost triangular necks, so really huge, fat and deep at the base, and then getting shorter at the top, but often also too short. They're a little thinner at the top, but often they didn't have enough length, to really flex the pole. Then they're just rigid, and the underneck is out, and so on. I mean, luckily that's improved. Modern PREs and the Pizans are usually built better, but like in the 60s and 70s, you would see that even in the 80s, still in the PREs. If you have horses with a long, narrow back, they tend to drop the back, and they're not very well suited for carrying the weight. So the horses with a really short, round back, they can be pretty rigid in their backs. It's hard for them to bend. It's hard for them to swing. Then the modern sport horses have their own issues. They often have super long necks and round necks, so they come behind the vertical really quickly. If the neck is sort of like a rubber snake, then they're often very long-legged, but short in the back and maybe a little narrow, so they're very unstable and have a high center of gravity, so it's very difficult to make a balanced turn, or they have so much power, pushing power in the hind legs, that they don't have the strength to catch the body upon landing and flex and push off again. So there are all kinds of issues, and then of course that will lead to bracing in the rib cage, bracing in the neck, bracing in the pole when they feel unbalanced and they feel like they might fall down any second. So so it's all certain conformational issues are more common in some breeds than others, of course, and then you will see that also in the top line of the horse, in the way the horse moves and the way the horse carries the rider, and so on. And Beth Brown says, okay, thanks. Yes, I feel it's a balancing act between getting more forward and with good balance. Yeah, definitely. That's also sometimes an issue, that when the horses go forward more, they push more, but then they also, if they push more and go more forward, they have to flex more behind in order to catch. Like the one hind leg tosses the body forward or pushes the body forward, the other hind leg now lands and has to catch it, right? And balance it and stabilize it, and then push it off again, and then the other hind leg has to catch it, right? So if the hind legs push more than they can support and carry, then the horse falls on the forehand. So that's why with some horses you have to start with a pretty small trot, and if the horse doesn't have much carrying power, then you have to reduce the pushing power a little bit, so the horse doesn't just push himself onto the forehand. And then as they get stronger, you can gradually ratchet it up and ask for a little bit more push, and then you have to increase the carrying power, the flexion, so that the horse stays in balance even with a bigger trot, and then it gradually gets bigger and bigger. So it sometimes takes a while to develop that. Shelley says, referencing forward downward stretching, at what level should the horse's head be or shouldn't be to ensure proper engagement through the back? Yeah, good question. It depends on the strength of the horse's hind legs and belly muscles. The head and neck are attached to the front of the body, in front of the support base. And they have a certain length, they have a certain weight, which means they have a certain leverage, right? The more the horse stretches the neck forward and down, the more that leverage of the head and neck pull the horse onto the forehand. Now, in order to stay in balance, the hind end has to support that, right, with muscle strength, and the belly muscles have to support that. It's a little bit like, I don't know, when you have a tractor with a front loader and you want to pick up a really heavy weight with that front loader, right, and you stick it out in front, there's a lot of leverage. And then, you know, if you're out of luck, the whole front loader tips over, right, and the rear wheels go up. So you need to have a weight attached behind the rear axle so that your front loader doesn't tip over when you carry a heavy weight. And now the horse, you know, you can't attach any weight behind the hind legs of the horse, but the hind legs have to hold that with their muscle strength, you know, with their thigh muscles, croup muscles, and so on. So initially, it could well be that you find that I can only let my horse stretch to a certain point, and then it feels like he tips over and loses balance. And then as he gets stronger, you can probably let the head and neck go forward, downward a little bit more. Egon von Neindorf always wanted the horse's nose on the ground, you know, like a hound on a trail, or a fox on a trail. That's what he always said. And in the FN rule book, they had changed that in the 80s, I think, to the nose should be at the level of the elbow joint or the shoulder joint of the horse, and not below that. But I think it depends a little bit on conformation, and it depends on the strength and the training level of the horse. The stronger the hind legs and the belly muscles are, the farther the horse can stretch forward, down without losing balance. I mean, being balanced is really the priority right there, right? It doesn't help you if the nose is on the ground and your horse is tipped, you know, fallen over. So you always have to have the feeling that the back is still up, the withers are still up, even if he stretches pretty far forward, downward. And as soon as you feel like now the withers are down, now the back is down, then you have to, you know, gather the hind legs up, shorten the reins, bring the horse up in front a little bit, and then you can let them stretch again. So, and that also means that some horses won't stretch especially far in the beginning of the training, or maybe not at all, depending on the conformation. Some horses only begin to stretch forward, downward decently when they have a certain strength. So once you've trained them to the point where they can sidestep a little bit, step under the body, sit a little bit, and then out of that, usually sooner or later they will all ask permission to stretch forward, downward. But some of them have to be motivated by gathering up the hind legs, sitting on them, and then they realize it would actually feel nice if I could stretch forward, downward. Whereas on their own, it would never occur to them, you know. There would be no reason, so to speak. Yeah. So unfortunately, not really a one size fits all answer. You know, it's you can experiment with that with your horse. You know, let him stretch more, let him stretch less. See where is the limit, where's the cutoff point. At what point does the horse fall on the forehand if you let him go down more? You know. So yeah. And Petra Roden says, my horse injured his foot and is on stall rest, control turnout. He's allowed to walk, but not trot and canter. Can I achieve same level of top line with walk work only, or is trot and canter required? Well, in the trot, the walk is good for coordinating exercises and body awareness and that sort of thing. But, you know, you probably won't build a whole lot of muscles with the walk. I mean, you do your best, you see what happens. But of course, in the trot and canter, you can build a little bit more musculature. It's more of a cardiovascular workout. Yeah, you have to work with what you have, basically, and then see how far you can get. Right?
It's better than nothing.
It's better than nothing, yeah, exactly. Then she says, what's your opinion on the position of the neck? Is it okay to do in handwork with neck low, below the withers and nose out, and closer to the ground? I don't think that will be especially beneficial. I mean, you can use that to let the horse stretch and rest, for example, right? Or if you have a horse that likes to invert and drop his back, then you can do exercises in hand where you encourage them to stretch forward and down. But I did that with one of the horses here who had been ridden with a drop back and inverted for years. And with him, I did little sidestepping exercises in hand and always tried to guide the hand a little forward, downward, try to guide the head of the horse forward, downward with my inside hand. And to create first a lateral stretch on the outside of the bend, and then as a result, a forward downward stretch a little bit. And that was beneficial, but it's not, not for very long periods of time. It's like you set it up, you let him stretch, and you put him back together, set it up, let him stretch. Or if the horse offers it, like here with one of the horses, I think it's in one of the videos actually in the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I did the sort of a leg yield in the trot on a diagonal, and then interrupted that with voltas, and the one horse then offered a forward downward stretch. I didn't really expect that, but he did it. And I thought, oh, this is useful. I let him do that, right? And then you gather up the reins and then maybe continue the leg yield and do another volt. And if he wants to stretch again, let him stretch again. But yeah, if the nose is out, the neck is low below the withers, then usually they're on the forehand and the hind legs are usually out behind and the back is dropped. So I don't think that gymnastically that is very helpful to do, I mean, you can let the horse do it to take a break after you had them engaged and balanced and more collected, and you can create the contrast of forward, downward, or let the horse go a little bit apart. Let the horse rest and relax, and then put him back together for the next session, for the next exercise that you do. Yeah, and Sharon Gallagher says one of the horses I ride has a short neck, short back, decent gaits. Great canter, but slow hind legs. I notice very difficult to gain a connection in the trot. Slow hind legs, tricky getting activity and not quick. All of the exercises help. Turn on the forehand, zigzag. I ride this horse with a lower neck. Any other suggestions? Yeah, if the neck is short, you may, and the hind legs don't want to engage, it makes sense to ride the horse with a little bit shorter, a lower neck, right? So the hind legs can engage more. If the hind legs are slow, I would probably look for anything that makes the hind legs slow. Is there a blockage, muscle blockage in the pole, in the neck, any tightness in the back, anything that blocks the energy transfer from the hind legs along the spine? Maybe difficult to get the horse to really use his back well if it's a short back and short neck. Slow hind legs. Now you could do these voltas on a in hand or under saddle, and then activate the inside hind, drive the inside hind when the outside front goes forward. That makes the hind legs quicker, and it leads to diagonalization, right? And you can then use that to teach the horse a piaffe or something like that, if that's useful to you. Just if you want the hind legs quicker, and it's that quicker in the sense like they lift up sooner, and that creates more energy and better impulsion, so it's not rushy, quick in the sense of the horse running away, but it's picking the hind legs up sooner, and then you can engage the hind legs better. Whereas otherwise, maybe the horse leaves the hind legs on the ground too long. If it's a slow, mover, then hind legs out on the staying on the ground too long means they go out behind, they push more, they don't carry very much. And if you ask the horse to pick the hind legs up sooner, you cut short the pushing phase a little, so they don't push as much, but then you can increase or prolong the flexion phase, so the horse carries the weight a little longer. If you make them pick the hind leg up sooner, bring it under the body more, then you can extend the flexion phase, the support phase, and you can shorten the pushing phase. Because if they're slow behind, they keep the hind legs on the ground longer, which usually means they push more and they don't carry so much. And then you can try to change that. And Francis Sizemel says, from the master centuries ago, they chose the most suited horses to train and perform easily. So what is it that the trained eye looks at? Is it similar to ballet dancers having correct angles and conformation? Good question, huh? Well, in the conformation, I would look for harmony, that everything looks proportionate, that head, neck, shoulders, back, croup seem of proportionate size, not giant shoulder, huge neck, and then a tiny croup, or oversized croup and a tiny stick neck, stuff like that. Or, also the size of the torso, the length of the neck, the length of the legs, the length of the back have to be in a good harmonious relationship. If you have a huge giant body and short tiny legs, then you'll have a lot of issues with suppleness and half passes and flying changes, for example, right? If you have this upright rectangle, like super long legs, short back, and very narrow back, then it's going to be very difficult to get that horse to relax, because he will always be teetering on disaster, right? Out of balance, and very hard to get these horses into a balance where they feel secure, right? And where they can relax. The neck length, depth, and so on and thickness has to be in a reasonable relationship. Very thin, but very long neck is very unstable, very difficult to ride, right? A short, fat neck may not have enough length for, elevation and flexion together. I would look at the harmonious flowing line from the pole, through the neck, the withers, the back to the croup, and then down to the hind legs. If you look from the side and there are any breaks, any ridges, any sharp edges, then that makes the training more difficult. It makes it more difficult for the horse to move well, move healthily. Like if it looks like a bunch of spare parts were thrown together, and nothing really fits with the rest of the body, then it's going to be a very difficult horse to train, right? And probably limited in how far they can go up the levels. But if you have this nice round swinging, basically round appearance would be good. Round croup, also a round back, wide lumbar spine area would be good. Certain depth in the girth, certain width in the rib cage, that would be beneficial, because they have to carry your weight with their back. Narrow backs are always touchy and sensitive and tricky, to get to lift and relax. The wider, sturdy backs are more suitable for riding purposes. And then, of course, you look at the gaits of the horse, look at walk, trot, canter, look at the energy transmission of the hind legs through the spine to the pole, when they're loose, watch them move loose and look if it's an elastic, swingy kind of a gait, or if it's clunky and hard. Does the horse kind of thud onto the forehand with every stride? Does it look like the hind legs are coming under and lifting and pushing the body forward, or does it look like they're sort of out behind, like an afterthought, trailing, some horses sort of show the soles of their hind feet every stride, and it looks like they sort of lift the hind leg up and then they just let it hang, and then it touches down, and those are often on the forehand and pushing a lot. Or does it look like the hind leg is lifting up and flexing in the air and reaching forward and touching down, so there's a roundness and a certain power behind the movement, more like a cat moves? That would be nice, so always look at the overall harmony of the conformation, and look at the flow of the energy, really. How is the energy transmitted, or how are the forces transmitted from the hind legs through the spine to the skull? The smoother and more harmonious that is, the better the horse will perform, and the easier he'll probably be to ride and train. And any interruption of the flow, any sharp angles, anything that's disproportionate will create problems. Right? And then Terry Castagna says, one of my trainers recommends trot poles on a curved line to help the horse use his back better. Do you recommend this? Oh yeah, it's a good thing, good exercise, definitely. I mean, you can use poles on straight lines, on curved lines. You can you can lunge over them, you can ride over them. Definitely good exercise. If you have poles or cavalettis, you could even put them at different heights, so the horse has to pay attention to what he's doing, and lift the leg a little higher over one pole and maybe not as much on the other, and so on. But yeah, definitely a good thing to do. Rebecca Stewart says, yeah, low on the ground trot poles, or what about raised trot poles? Yeah, you can play with that, play with the distances, play with the height, and so on. Yeah, can definitely be beneficial, for a variety of things. Yeah, it's interesting if they're not all the same height, right? If one is higher, one is a little lower, one is in the middle. So, yeah, helps with attentiveness of the horses. They pay more attention onto. Yeah, so then Katie Migachi says, this is kind of off topic, but I was wondering if you could answer it anyway. Lately, I've been working trying to get the horse I ride on the bit without draw reins, but I have not gotten it yet. My coach has been very helpful, but I'm curious to see how you would suggest I ask him. He's resistant to me putting him on the bit, but others can get him there.
Great question.
Yeah, it's a great question. It depends a little bit on how the horse is built and what he does. So I assume the horse probably just drops the back and inverts. Really, usually effective way to get the horse on the bit is to ride curved lines and then engage the inside hind, for example. You can enlarge, you can ask the croup to yield onto a bigger circle and then ride a volte at the circle point, and then after the volte back to the big circle, maybe engage the inside hind again, ride a volte at the other next circle point. So that sort of thing. So lots of round lines, bigger circles, smaller circles, and sidestepping that usually helps you get the hind legs under the body, gets the horse to stretch the muscles on the outside of the bend. And then this longitudinal flexion really comes out of the lateral bend. If you look at the horse, he has some conformational features that make him a little difficult, and yeah, so the longitudinal flexion is the result of lateral bending. You create the lateral bending by riding curved lines and a little bit of sidestepping with a bend against the direction of travel. So could be, asking the croup to yield to the outside of the circle. You could ask the croup also to yield a little to the inside of the circle, but counterbend while you do that. You can enlarge the circle. You can do little leg yields on the center line and interrupt those with voltes. These are all exercises that get the horses to lift the back and relax the pole, and then they come on the bit. The one thing that doesn't work is front to back, trying to force the horse into a headset or with a direct backward traction on the rein. That's not going to work. But if you massage the horse from the side with your inside aids into the outside aids, and then maybe turn with the outside aids, and then massage again with the inside aids, that usually works. Serpentines are great too. Ride a serpentines in 4 loops or something. And then maybe in each loop ride a volte, so you have a little bit extra time to develop the bend and the stretch on the outside of the bend, and mix that with a little sidestepping, and then you should be able to get him on the bit. That's, we have this one horse here that was ridden inverted and above the bit for many years. I don't know if he was ever really correctly on the bit and through the back, but with him, that's what worked. Gather up the hind legs with sidestepping, and then either engage the hind leg and then bend a little with an opening rein to stretch the muscles on the outside, or engage the hind leg and turn volte, for example. in all possible variations that you can think of, and all possible lines you can think of. And then he got better and better. He learned to reorganize his body so he could lift the back and relax the paw. Yeah. Oh. Sarah Barlow says, I love listening to all of your topics. Gives me a lot to think about. I have to leave, but I'm looking forward to hearing the rest later. Oh, good. I'm glad that it's useful to you. It's interesting. Then Terry Castania says, I had an equine osteopath look at my German riding pony, and she said he has a depressed sacrum, which I gather means that his sacrum is tilting down as it comes into his back. Yeah, probably. This makes it harder for him to connect through his back. He does have a flatter croup. Have you heard of depressed sacrum? Shanna has. I haven't heard the term, but I picture that like the Arab croup, you know, where the pelvis is rotated the wrong way, which lowers the lumbar spine, right? So you need to find ways to bring the hind legs under the body, flex them so the pelvis tilts in the other direction, and which then raises the lumbar spine, right? So if the dock of the tail kind of goes back and down, and the pubic bone goes forward, then the whole it lifts the lumbar spine up.
Yeah, bit by bit work.
Yeah,
Bit by bit
exactly.
work, and it's good to really.
Yeah, there's a lot of Arab in his blood.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. He's inclined to do that.
Yeah.
Bit by bit work and a lot of groundwork to do this. Yeah, but you can help him. You can help him. You might not make him look like a different breed, a horse that he isn't, but you will help him be able to be the best horse he can be.
Some Lipizzanes have that issue too.
Yeah, because they have a lot of Arab blood in them. We have a lot of experience with Lipizzanes because we bred them for years. So, yeah.
It is sort of a thing that needs constant work, essentially, because it's in the skeleton, right? It's the way the skeleton is formed. So you kind of need to support that all the time. So also you gather the hind legs up, sit on them. Often little step forwards, one step back, one step forward, one step back, little, you know, so you gather the hind leg up by stepping forward, and then a rein back step to bring the body mass over the hind legs and hopefully flex the joints of the hind legs, and then back and forth like that. Yeah. That can help.
Yep.
You know, stuff like that. And you can do this in hand, you can do this under saddle.
Yep. And actually on day 5, we're going to tell you how you can do more of that. But if you've been through the challenge, you know that. If you haven't, then welcome aboard.
Rebecca Stewart says, what can you do for a horse who's stiff on one side in particular, where they want to drop that shoulder when asked to bend? Yeah, that's the straightness. Straightness course.
That's a crookedness issue.
It's a crookedness issue, yeah. Yeah, you have to shift the weight to the other side, to the hollow side, where you know, the concave side.
Get the horse comfortable being able to shift the weight to the other pair of legs, or other pair of legs, other 3 legs pair. What happens is that horses, they get caught into a habit, just like we do. You always stand on a certain leg. The horses do too, and the more they do it, the more it's perpetuated, but they're comfortable there, and they're very uncomfortable doing anything else. So we have to devise things that make the horse very comfortable, or learning to become comfortable shifting the weight to the other legs. And this, therefore, straighten the horse.
Exactly. You have to shift the weight from the overloaded shoulder to the other side of the body, and then make sure both hind legs come under the body. So there's a variety of sidestepping exercises, and
exercises that help the horse learn how to shift the weight.
That helps with your canter depart. The outside hind leg lifts the horse into the canter, but if the horse is leaning on the inside shoulder, you'll get the wrong lead, or you get a cross canter, right? So you have to get the weight from the inside shoulder onto the outside hind leg, preferably. Outside pair of legs is already in progress, right? But outside hind would be even better, and then you get the correct lead. So that takes a little, but it's a straightness thing that it's one of those things that you have to work on every day, because everybody is a little asymmetrical, every horse, every rider. And she's a pro cross cantering. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, makes total sense, right?
Totally.
So most horses have their favorite front leg that they use to support themselves. And now part of the dressage training has to be to teach the horse that there is a good leg at each corner. Each leg can support the body mass, right? And initially, they may get pretty scared if you suggest to them that they should shift the weight to the other side of the body. So that's something you can do in hand, you can do under saddle too. A lot of our exercises have these weight shifts and changes of direction built in. And once the horse realizes that on the other side, on the hollow side, she has, you know, 2 legs too that could be used for supporting the weight, then she'll relax when she knows that it's not hurting. The legs are not going to break off if she puts weight on them, and then she's more willing to do it, and then you'll see how the canter improves, and a lot of other things will improve. Your bend, your circles, your changes of direction, and a lot of stuff will improve when the horse realizes, oh, I can support myself more with the right pair of legs or more with the left pair of legs, you know. So yeah, actually, let me check on YouTube. Oh, good.
It was just me.
Yeah, and Leslie Wolf says, I find serpentines with sidestep before the turn really helps with flexibility. I know, that's one of my favorite exercises too. The serpentines, especially with a vault at each loop, and then you go little sidestepping here and there, you know. So that's a super effective exercise. So I do those a lot. So I'm gonna go back to Zoom. There were Q&As too. Petra Roden says, my horse. Okay, we had answered that actually earlier. And Allison says, my mare has a 3-year-old injury to the nuchal ligament. My diagnosis based on anatomy books, from pulling back, yeah, it could happen. Mm-hmm. Her left side has a noticeable bump. She has low high heels. Her left right front is lower, and her shoulder area is a bit fuller on the left. She has a slight bump on her spine just in front of her lumbosacral joint in the lumbar region that exacerbates when ridden and goes back down when given time off. Okay. She has a hematoma on her left hindquarters from being kicked quite a long time ago near her tuber ischii. She's been off work for 5 years. DDFT injuries now healed. EPM. Wow. But has a good sized corral. She walks a lot, although tends to drag her hind legs. She tends to carry her tail to the left, more so when she's off. My question is, while starting her back on the ground, how do I determine a plan of progression? I'm not skilled working in hand, had to begin with, and I'm at a complete loss how to build up gradually and what progression of exercises to use. Yeah, that's not so easy because there are so many issues there. I mean, for one thing, I would team up with a vet or physiotherapist to make sure you're not asking anything the horse can't do. So I would clear with the vet or the osteopath or physiotherapist if the horse can work and how much the horse can work. And then essentially all you can do is try to help the horse find her balance. So I would start with some lunging, steady tempo, round circle, see that the horse finds her balance there, and then add in work in hand, down transitions, walk halt transitions initially, little sidestepping on the circle, turns on the forehand in motion to change direction, things like that, and then basically see how it goes. You know, the horse will give you feedback and you'll see what works, you'll see what doesn't work, you see where she has trouble. And if there's a lot of resistance, then you can see if there's a way to make the exercise easier, but still addressing that same skill or the same set of muscles, and then, you know, see how she handles that. Is it possible? Is it not possible? Yeah, you'll have to be pretty flexible, probably. Yeah, not so easy when you have a horse with that many health issues, because then it's always the question: is that even fair to ask? Is the horse able to do it? Is that something she can work through and get over? Is, you know, will she get better if I insist that she tries it, you know, or does it get worse? You know, so yeah, I have to really read the horse's feedback. So yeah, but off of work for 5 years, I would condition her a little bit with lunging on a cavesson, and then add work in hand, and then I would see where I go from there. You know, if you can do some long reining, if you can do some double lunging. Eventually, you can probably ride her once she has built some muscles. And then you can see, you know, when you're at the stage where you can ride, do you feel like you can help her better in the saddle, or do you feel like the additional weight makes things worse and you need to try and do as much on the ground as possible? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, in our course, we can help more with these things. You know, if you post videos, then we can come up with ideas of what to do, and then I get a better sense of what the issues are. You know, if something's not working, then why is it? What is it that's preventing the horse from doing it, right? Is there something in the conformation? Is there something in the history of injuries that makes it hard or makes it impossible for the horse to do certain things? Yeah. Yeah, but it sounds like a really interesting case. Huh? Sarah says, I have a thoroughbred who underwent tie back surgery 5 months ago. He has no top line at all. So we're literally starting from nothing. What we suggest we do to start? Thank you. I would lunge with a calisson, try to create a steady, calm tempo on a round circle, and then do some transitions, you know, the walk trot transitions at the lunge line, maybe canter if the horse is fairly balanced. And see how it develops. You can develop some stamina with that, and yeah, and then I would usually do a little basic work in hand to help with coordination, body awareness, explain to the horse what a rein aid is and what a half hold is, and these things. Yeah, and then the rest will follow from that. So, let me see, I'm trying to here look in the chat box, checking if I forgot anybody. So I think Shelley was the next one. She says, a 4-horse diagnosed with kissing spines, not ridden. What exercises would you recommend to make them more comfortable on the back, better supported? Yeah, combination of, you know, lunging or double lunging for the cardiovascular workout, and forward downward stretching and so on. And then I would do some work in hand to bring the hind legs under the body, flex the hind legs. They could do a combination of sidestepping, rein back forward, you know, transitions, walk, halt, trot, halt, transitions. So that in hand you can focus a little bit on engaging the hind leg and putting the body weight onto the hind leg so they flex more. And then at the lunge line and the double lunge line, you can try to create a forward downward stretch, and you can work on building stamina, building strength. And Sharon Gallagher says, someone once told me backing a horse uphill to get the hind legs under as well as the croup. Any thoughts in hand? Yeah, it can work. I mean, you could see how they would then lower the croup and let the body mass go, you know, over the hocks longer than if you do it on a straight line, on a horizontal plane. Good. And Nessa says, speaking of Lipizans, I've noticed so many, including my own, have huge pendulous bellies, even though they're fit and working properly with good top lines. Are these horses still lacking abdominal strength?
No.
No, I don't think so. It's just a little bit the way they're shaped. And there are horses that let the belly hang out when they're standing in the field, and then as soon as they work, they tuck it up. We have a Lusitano gelding who does that too. He always looks like a middle-aged man with a beer belly when he's standing around. It's like, oh my god, this is so embarrassing. And then when he works, he tucks it right up, and you don't see it anymore. It's kind of funny. And yeah, so Lipizans, they can do that too. Lipizans are funny because they can look really sort of ugly and homely when they're standing in the pasture, and then once they're on and they're performing, they look quite nice, right? And they look quite impressive. So yeah, it's kind of a funny breed in a way.
We like them.
We like them, I know.
Obviously.
Christina says, when is the right time to give an upward half hold in the trot lunge line to not disturb the back hollowing? But what do you want to accomplish with an upward half hold? Yeah, the lunge line, it's hard because you're so far away. So the upward half hold may not have a big effect on the horse. What often works well, like if the horse is getting too low and strung out, might be better to do a couple of transitions, like from the trot down to the walk and immediately back up. Like we have a horse that can do that sometimes, that he will put his head on the ground because he is one of those horses that had a really bad history in the past of, people yanking on the reins. So had a very troubled relationship with bits and reins and stuff. And if I do a down transition from trot to walk, and then basically as he's coming back to the walk, ask him for the up transition, then you can see him rebalance in the down transition. Then he sits a little behind, he brings the head up. And then by doing the up transition in that moment, the hind leg, inside hind especially, steps under the body more. And then you create more lift, and then he's good for a while, stays more uphill. And then, sometimes sooner, sometimes later, you have to do it again, because then he starts to root and grab the bit, and we lunge him with actually a double lunge him most of the time, right? But so then if he does that, if he lowers the head and neck too much and pushes onto the forehand, then I do my down transition, up transition, and then maybe a couple of times in a row, and his balance is a lot better after that. Terry Castani says, have to go, but thank you. You have confirmed many of the training exercises I'm using and given me some more ideas. Nice. Oh, good. Sometimes it's nice to hear too that you're maybe on the right track,
yes,
and that
it's important.
That you don't need to change a whole lot. You just keep going, doing what you're doing. That's always nice as well. And if you can get additional ideas to try, that's always a nice benefit. Right? And Svetlana Belova says, is going backwards in hand helpful to develop spine muscles? Yeah, if you don't overdo it, it's like with everything else. Right? I always find the transitions in and out of the rein back most interesting. Like ask the hind legs to come under the body, and then see if you can move the body mass back over the hind legs. So eventually they have to take a step or two back, and then you can send the hind legs forward again. So the horse takes a couple of steps forward. And so by stepping forward, think of bringing the hind legs closer to the front legs. And then with the rein back, bring the front legs closer to the hind legs. So all in all, your horse becomes more compact. Every time you go forward, backward, you want to shorten the wheelbase, right? So the hind leg, front leg distance becomes a little bit shorter every time. And as the hind legs and front legs come closer together, the back will lift more. And so that'll develop the back muscles of the horse. And then if you've done that a few times, you may find that you have to let the horse stretch a little bit forward, downward too, because it's hard work, right? To have all 4 feet close together and lift the back. So having all 4 feet close together will make the horse want to stretch at some point, and then you can just allow it, and take a little break, and then put the horse back together, and shorten the reins again. Hey, so on key YouTube, there's a few more comments, questions. Boots 433. Sorry, I don't know the name.
It's their YouTube.
I know. So she says, I'm working with a very athletic horse who's left hind weak. Even in pasture when he's playing, he sidewinds a bit. Yeah, it's a crookedness issue, right? So he was willing on trail, going downhill to adjust and get his hind leg under himself. It does appear to have been going on long enough to show in his shoulders, yes. And when asking him to move the weight left to right in the front leg, spiraling in and out, how course has been helping to build. Nice. I will get some pics to put in the Topline post. Any general thoughts to engage him without overdoing it? Yeah, it's a crookedness issue. Weak left hind. Then there's always a lateral imbalance going on. So you have to teach the horse also to shift the weight from one side to the other, so that the horse realizes that he can support himself with a left pair of legs as well as with the right pair of legs. You can do this with little sidestepping exercises. Also, turn on the forehand 90 degrees, in out, turn on the forehand 90 or turn on the haunches 90 degrees, right? So move the croup around the shoulders 90 degrees to the inside, 90 degrees to the outside. You could do the same with a turn on the haunches, right? Move the shoulders 90 degrees to the inside and 90 degrees back out. So the horse has to shift the weight in the direction of travel every time. Then ask the hind legs to sidestep so they can't sneak out. The hind leg on the stiffer side will try to hang out behind, and the hind leg on the hollow side will try to sneak off to the side. So if you ask them to sidestep in regular intervals, then none of those hind legs can really leave too far, go too far. I'm just rereading here the comments. And yeah, I mean, if the horse is moving crooked long enough, then the muscle development will be uneven. Then he'll have more muscles on the side that carries more weight most of the time, and then he'll atrophy on the other side. Good way of thinking about it is that you teach the horse to move his hips and shoulders equally easily left and right. So teach him to move his shoulders left and right by riding turns, right? Voltas, figure eights, serpentines, both directions. Turns on the haunches in both directions, anything that moves the shoulder. And you'll find that one side is easier, the other side is harder. So see if you can practice it in such a way that the more difficult side becomes just as easy as the easy side. Same thing with the hindquarters. The hindquarters should be able to yield equally easily left and right, or the horse should be able to cross with the right hind equally easily as with the left. So the design exercises around that, could be all kinds of lateral movements, sidestepping exercises, turns on the forehand in motion. And out of that develops straightness, really. And then these symptoms that you're describing should become smaller, over time. And then, the final question here was thoughts to engage him without overdoing it. The horse will tell you when he gets tired. So if you change the balance and the straightness in a relatively drastic way, it will be tiring because the horses have to focus maybe more than they're used to, and they have to use different muscles than they're used to. So consequently, they may not last as long, so be aware of that, and give the horse breaks when you feel like he's getting worse. That could be that you start at a certain point in the training, in the session, and then it gets better, and then it gets worse. And it's like, well, now he feels more like he did in the beginning of the session. That means that the muscles are tired, that he needs for the better posture. So now he goes back to the old habit. Right? So then maybe take a break and try again in a couple of minutes, or maybe finish for the day. And always listen for the horse's reactions, the horse's feedbacks, and they'll let you know when something is really hard. They'll let you know when they get tired. They let you know when something hurts, and So it's a bit of an experience and feel thing too, and you develop experience by doing it and making some bad decisions sometimes, and working too long, then the horse could handle, and you realize afterwards, shouldn't have done that. I mean, happened to me too, and I try to avoid it now. So, but that's how you learn. That's how you figure it out, right? Yeah. And Ann Hall says, thank you for reconfirming the importance of using a well-fitted solid piece rather than broken over the front. Yes, lunging cavesson. The difference rather than shortcut lunging off the bridle is enormous. Yeah. With a cavesson, you're much more precise. You can address the horse a lot more effectively than by attaching the lunge line to the bit. Oh, Nessa says, thank you so much. I also have to go. Your teaching has given me the skills to help so many horses and riders. Oh, that's so nice, Nessa. She says, I've become the local instructor who's called in for complicated situations when nothing else is working. I keep to your methods, and lo and behold, in a few months, things start to improve, and frustrated riders are on the right road to improving everything about their horsemanship. Things come into better balance and the marriage is saved. Can never thank you enough. Oh, that's so sweet.
Thank you, Nessa.
That is really nice. Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, Nessa's an old friend, old student of ours. And it's nice that the things we taught her are working still for her students.
And she's able to share it.
And she's able to share it, exactly. Yeah.
I love that.
Yep, that's how it should be, right? And Christina says, thank you for the transitions advice. Yeah, try it out, see if it works. If it doesn't work, you can still try something else. But for the one horse here in particular, that works amazingly well. So I would try that with every other horse too. And then try it a few times. If it doesn't work, try something else. Huh? So let me go back. So YouTube, nothing new on the YouTube front. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you don't have any more questions, we can wrap it up. Tomorrow we'll do it all again.
And we'll look at pictures.
And look, yeah. And Svetlana says, thank you so much. Thomas and Shanna, you're welcome. Yeah, so I can wait a few more seconds, a minute, two, in case somebody is typing as we speak, which is usually what happens. But otherwise, come back tomorrow. Ask me again tomorrow if you think of something else. Yeah, doesn't look like anybody else has any urgent questions. So thanks a lot, and we'll see you tomorrow, same time, hopefully. Bye.